Hi, everyone, and welcome to Goddess Garden Book Club. I'm so glad that you're here. Um, Today is a very special day. We've got a lot going on in this fantastic little group that we have. I'm always very thankful that you're here to join us. Um, I don't know if I've shared with you or not, and I'm using a teleprompter. Don't want to hurt any more trees, and I had pieces of paper taped up everywhere trying to adhere to a script. Can you tell I'm not tech savvy? But I am using a teleprompter. And that teleprompter is off to the side of the screen. And I have yet to master what the speed is going to be. So bear with me. So let's get started. Let's get into the good nitty gritty of what it means to be a part of the Goddess Garden Book Chat. Now, as always, I always start with be comfortable, be welcomed, and be aware because the topics discussed in this book club include everything from basement dungeons to other worlds. We cover everything in between autobiographies. I mean, you name it. I've read so many books in my lifetime. And I now have this wonderful space, our book club, to talk about them with you. I'm going to share my thoughts with some of these great reads. And this is going to be a safe space to talk about these wonderful works of literature. Some may even be fanfic, who knows? But we're going to talk about it because if I've read it, bursting to tell you about it. Now, whether it's AM or PM, I'm so happy that you're here to join me and be a part of the conversation. I also invite you to join me in my social media pages. I think it's a great place for us to really take our book club to the next level. So please, if you have the opportunity, come on Discord and let's talk about some of the books that we have in our club. I also want to let you know that today's featured partner is my Prosecco. I always have a beverage, something that I can enjoy while I talk to you about these wonderful books. So today, it's rainy Sunday outside. Nice glass of Prosecco. My husband is doing wonderful things in the kitchen. So this is what we're doing. Now, I'm a firm believer, and I've said this in every show, that your path really dictates what you're going to find enjoyable in literature. And what I mean by that is that there's something out there for everyone. We should all have, if not a favorite book, something that we've read that has moved us to feel, share, and discuss. And today, what I have found for you is going to be what I think is a hot topic for years to come. It's also been a topic in many arenas years before now. But now, especially, this is a hot topic. And today's book is called The Fatherhood Mandate. It was written by M.E. Wright, and I've had the pleasure of pulling some great information about this. The book is set in 2028, and it is a captivating and dark dystopian novel that explores the mind bending question of what bodily autonomy means to society. And I think one of the things that you have to appreciate about a book like this is it may not necessarily affect you personally, but it's affecting millions of people who get caught into situations like this. And though this is a work of fiction, I think it's an amazing book. Let's start with the synopsis because I think that's a great place to start. What happens when a father is no longer a choice? When becoming a father is no longer a choice, excuse me. Sam Maxwell is looking forward to graduating from college. After breaking up with his on again, off again girlfriend for good, his life is suddenly derailed by a summons to family court. Wisconsin's pro birth laws declare him the biological father of an embryo, which has been appointed a ward of the state. Struggling with sudden loss of his athletic scholarship, his friends, and freedom after being placed under house arrest, Sam fights to keep his sense of self as his stubborn partner tries to force her own agenda. When a bad decision crosses the line that's set by the court, the angry young man faces devastating criminal charges for a child that may not be his. Will he find a path through this autocratic nightmare before his life is derailed forever? I don't know. But one of the great things about books like this is that that's what we're here for. We're going to find out whether or not it does derail his life. And today, as a special conversation edition, I get to welcome my guest, M.E. Wright. M.E. Wright is the author of this amazing work, and she's going to give us a very clear and deep look at how this work came into creation and how you can enjoy it because it's also part of the series. So let's welcome M.E. Wright to our book club meeting. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me, Jen.
I am super excited to have you here. Where are you joining us from?
So Eastern,
Wonderful. All right. As a lot of people know, I'm based in Houston, Texas, but thanks to technology, no matter where we are, we can have this conversation. So tell me a little bit about, and I've gone over the synopsis and I've got the book, I've started the book, but the content was so here that I felt like I needed to pay very close attention to it. And I was in the midst of 9 other books that I was juggling. And I don't want to do that with this particular work. I wanted to focus on it, both because, yes, it's a work of fiction, but this has real world ramifications because we see this all the time. So tell me, what brought about the creation of the Fatherhood Mandate? Right, I remember clearly. Yes, I agree with you. It makes perfect sense. You started the series from the male perspective. Tell me a little bit about that. Right. That's such a common story narrative that's put out there. Exactly. Right. I really appreciated that that's where you started because in this conversation, whether you're reading a book that depicts this scenario or whether you are paying attention to the norms that exist in telling the story, rarely is a male perspective shared. So that was one of the things that I thought was absolutely phenomenal about the way that this book started and why I wanted to share this with our book club. One of the things I also wanted to ask, or at least sort of expound on, is you and I actually know each other. Talk a little bit about where we met. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. I think that's the truth. I think that being a part of this group, exposing myself to some of the most talented women who are working in virtual reality, sort of was a stepping stone to helping me feel comfortable about doing this. Now, one of the things when you were talking about your book and your book cover and the colors that you use to really express particular points of view in your book, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, for me as a reader, and I think I shared this with you, when I look at book covers, I'm more interested in the purpose and the viewpoint from the author, which you've shared very clearly as to why this book exists. But what inspired you to write this book? Interesting. In the United States as well. Absolutely. So, was that sort of why, when you wrote this book and you thought, okay, I've shared this perspective, this is how I feel, it then led to a series? Ah, interesting. So, what do you think? You know, this topic is so weighted for a lot of people, but I think it's such a great read in the respective of really sort of being a part of the conversation as opposed to being a looky loo. So if there were one thing that a person who doesn't really have, for lack of a better term, a dog in this fight, who is a passive onlooker of watching this kind of interaction shape youth in America, what was your sense and creativity of what you wanted people to take away from this? Exactly. And it was a hard fought journey that is being so callously removed. And one of the things when I follow what is happening in North America and what's happening to the way that we all live our lives, the more that I read, the more that I learn, the more that I understand about the basic makeup of what is expected of us as citizens, the more I realize the removal of rights and healthcare and all of these types of things are only impacting people who, for the design of America, thinks shouldn't be here, or overcrowding the system, or weighting the system down. So, in that sense, this was such a profound read to me because it scratches the surface of so many other nonfiction books that I read that talk about these very issues from years ago to today. And here we have something pushing into the future saying you're going to have to reckon with this impact because it's still impacting you going forward, including this unborn child, because this child is going to exist and it's going to have questions eventually. So that was one of the biggest takeaways that I got from just the short part that I've done. But if if I can share anything about the type of reader I am, I dissect books, think about them, go back and reread a chapter, and really engage in depth. I remember we were giving the book Eve, the evolution. I forget, it's by an author named Monahan, and one of our women of workrooms members picked it, and I kept thinking when I read the book, this is so clinical, and it's really not talking to me. I think this is a peer type of literature. But what I found after reading it is subliminally, it fits almost in everything that I look at the impact on women, the way healthcare studies male bodies versus female bodies, and all decisions sort of are preempted with the look of how this view is given. And I mean, let alone being a woman of color, we can go down that rabbit hole extensively, Henrietta Lacks. So, with that being said, um, let's talk about where readers can find your book because I am super excited that other people should definitely take a little bit of their time and really get into this type of a topic, whether fiction or nonfiction. Excellent, excellent. Great. I love that. You know, I used to love hardback books and books in general, but as I've gotten older, audiobooks have just been more manageable. Me and my trusty Kindle, that is full of now 5,000 works, have done the heavy lifting because as you move around in life, it's hard to keep up with all those books. And I am so I ride the fence on it because nothing beats having a shelf of wonderful books you love to choose from. And I've had to learn to adopt that mentality with my Kindle. Love to learn that these books exist here. I love it because a lot of people are using their phones, their computers, wherever you get your literature. I want everybody to take a look at M.E. Wright's The Fatherhood Mandate. So before we close, are there anything that you'd like to share other than I'm so proud to have you here? I'm so glad we got a chance to really talk to you about your work. Wonderful. Okay. To take care of a child. Thank you so much for joining us. It is a pleasure to have you. And please continue to write such great works. I'm really enjoying what you're doing. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Okay, book club members, say thank you to M.E. Wright. And I want to thank you for joining me today. Today was such a special day for me. Having an author join me to talk about the works that they create is just such a great added addition to a book club, because more often than not, when we read a book and we don't have the input from the author to fill those gaps, I think that it makes it hard to really appreciate their point of view or perspective that can get twisted, disrupted, and sometimes obfuscated and used in other ways. So again, you can find her on Discord. You can certainly get in touch with her and do direct marketing to support her work. Um, I so far have given this book a rating, and I've given it a rating of 4 because I was in such a happy and excited place to even have a book like this show up and allow me to participate in it. And to have an author join us and share about it, how you think this is making me feel. I'm so geeked. And book club, I've got 2 more authors lined up, and hopefully I'll have more. But our next book club meeting, we're going to talk about Kristen Ashley, one of my favorite authors in the romance genre. And you're going to find a lot of romance talk here because that is my first and foremost love in literature. But I do read so much more, and it will be included later. But we're going to go and talk a little bit about some of the great things that are happening with her. So you can always find me on YouTube. You can always find me on Spotify and Discord, even on Entree and on Meta. I am in all of these places, and I'm super excited to engage with you should you join me. So I'm going to close and say, let's leave with a focus on books that are out there and return with what we found. And let's all keep in mind with a smile that this is a great way to enjoy some free time, some deep thought, and to learn a thing or two. Get out of the bubble and share a perspective. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I hope to see you again in our next book club meeting.